I never planned on becoming the most talked about person at Blackwood Industries. For 7 years, I was just Sarah Mitchell, the quiet analyst who sat in the corner cubicle on the 14th floor. The one everyone overlooked. The one they called mousy behind my back. The one my boss, Marcus Thompson, loved to use as his personal example of how not to succeed in business. But sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch most carefully. I still remember the exact moment everything changed. It was at the company's annual holiday party held in the grand ballroom of the Westbrook Hotel. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables draped in white silk, while waiters in black ties circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I stood near the dessert table, wearing the one designer dress I owned, a classic black number I'd saved 3 months to buy. While others networked and laughed in tight clusters, I observed. That's what I'd always done best. Watch, listen, and learn. Oh look, Sarah's actually at a social event. Jessica Porter's voice carried across the room, dripping with mock surprise. As head of marketing, she never missed an opportunity to remind others of their place in the corporate hierarchy. I thought you'd be home working on another one of your, what do you call them? Analysis reports. A few people nearby snickered. I took a slow sip of champagne, letting the bubbles dance on my tongue. 7 years of careful planning had taught me patience. Someone has to do the real work, I replied quietly, watching Jessica's perfectly made-up face twist in annoyance. She wasn't used to me responding at all. Real work. Marcus Thompson's deep laugh boomed through the ballroom as he joined our growing circle. My boss loosened his designer tie, clearly feeling the effects of too much premium scotch. Is that what you call those endless spreadsheets that never go anywhere? How long have you been in the same position now, Sarah? 7 years? I smiled, thinking of the encrypted files on my personal laptop at home. About that long, yes. And still making the same salary as a junior analyst, Jessica added with false sympathy. While the rest of us, she gestured to her Cartier watch, letting the implication hang in the air. More people were gathering now, drawn to the scent of public humiliation like sharks to blood. I recognized faces from every department. Thomas from accounting, who'd rejected my budget proposals 6 times in the past year. Melissa from HR, who'd lost my promotion paperwork twice. Daniel from legal, who never bothered to hide his disdain when I offered suggestions in meetings. You know what your problem is, Sarah? Marcus swayed slightly as he pointed his crystal tumbler at me. You think small. All these years you've been buried in minor details, never seeing the bigger picture. That's why you'll never succeed here. The room had grown quieter, more people turning to watch the show. Marcus loved an audience, especially when he was playing the role of wise mentor delivering hard truths. Tell me, Marcus, I said, my voice steady. What exactly is the bigger picture? He laughed again, but this time there was an edge to it. In 7 years, I'd never challenged him directly. The bigger picture, my dear Sarah, is that business is about bold moves. It's about taking risks, making plays that change the game entirely. He gestured expansively, nearly spilling his drink. Look around this room. Every successful person here understands that. But you? You'll always be the company's biggest loser, hiding behind your spreadsheets and analyses. The words hung in the air like smoke, accompanied by scattered laughter and whispers. Jessica smirked, raising her champagne glass in a mock toast. To Sarah, she called out, may she finally learn her place. I set my own glass down carefully on a nearby table, smoothing my dress with steady hands. 7 years of calculated moves, careful documentation, and quiet observation had led to this moment. You're right about one thing, Marcus, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the now hushed ballroom. Business is about bold moves. He blinked, thrown off by my calm demeanor. What? You should check tomorrow's business news. I continued, picking up my small clutch purse. I think you'll find it quite enlightening. Is that supposed to be a threat? Jessica scoffed, but I caught the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. I smiled, thinking of the press release scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Not a threat, Jessica. Just a suggestion. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some work to finish. As I walked toward the exit, Marcus called after me, his voice carrying a hint of desperate bravado. That's right, run away to your spreadsheets. It's all you'll ever be good for. I paused at the doorway, turning back to face the room one last time. We'll see about that. The drive home to my apartment was quiet, snow beginning to fall in soft flurries that melted against my windshield. I thought about the last 7 years, every insult I'd endured, every idea they'd stolen, every promotion they'd blocked. I thought about the careful trail of evidence I'd gathered, the patterns I'd documented, the connections I quietly uncovered while they were all too busy mocking me to notice. Most of all, I thought about the 300-page report sitting in sealed envelopes on the desks of the SEC, the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, and 7 major news outlets, all timestamped for release at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. My phone buzzed as I parked, a text from David Chen, my contact at the Wall Street Journal. "Everything's ready for tomorrow. Story runs on front page. You sure about this?" I typed back a simple yes before heading up to my apartment. Inside, I kicked off my heels and opened my laptop, checking one last time that everything was in place. 7 years of meticulous documentation about Blackwood Industries' systematic fraud, money laundering, and insider trading filled my screen. Emails, transaction records, audio recordings, all pointing directly to Marcus Thompson, Jessica Porter, and the rest of the senior management team. They thought I was just a quiet analyst lost in spreadsheets. They never realized I was building the case that would bring down their entire empire. I poured myself a glass of wine and settled onto my couch, watching the snow fall outside my window. In less than 12 hours, Blackwood Industries would face the biggest corporate scandal since Enron. Marcus Thompson and his inner circle would be led out of the building in handcuffs. And Sarah Mitchell, the company's biggest loser, would be revealed as the whistleblower who exposed it all. But that wasn't even the biggest surprise waiting for them tomorrow. No, the real shock would come when they learned what I'd been doing besides gathering evidence. When they discovered exactly who had been quietly buying up controlling shares of Blackwood's stock through a maze of shell companies. When they realized that the loser they'd mocked for 7 years was about to become their new CEO. I smiled, raising my wine glass in a silent toast to tomorrow. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served with an SEC investigation and a corporate takeover. Tomorrow would change everything. But for now, I enjoyed the quiet of my apartment, knowing it was the last peaceful moment I'd have for quite a while. The storm I was about to unleash would shake the business world to its core, and I intended to savor every moment of it. At exactly 8:45 a.m. the next morning, I walked into Blackwood Industries wearing my best suit. The security guard barely glanced at me. I was just another early arriving employee, unremarkable as always. Little did he know he was about to witness history. The 14th floor was still quiet, most employees nursing hangovers from last night's party. I settled into my cubicle, powered up my computer, and waited. My phone buzzed, another text from David at the Wall Street Journal. "Story goes live in 10 minutes, still time to back out." I replied with a simple thumbs up emoji. 7 years of preparation had led to this moment. There would be no backing out now. At 8:57, Marcus Thompson strutted past my desk, not even bothering to look my way. His designer suit couldn't quite hide the effects of last night's scotch, but his arrogant swagger was firmly in place. "Still here, Sarah?" Jessica Porter's voice dripped with disdain as she followed Marcus, clutching her morning latte. "I thought after last night you might finally realize it's time to move on." I checked my watch, 8:58 a.m. "Actually," I said quietly, "I think you're right. It is time for changes." Jessica rolled her eyes and continued toward her office. I started counting down in my head. At exactly 9:00 a.m., everything changed. First came the phones. Every desk phone on the floor started ringing simultaneously. Then the cell phones joined in, buzzing, chiming, and vibrating with incoming alerts. I watched as people began answering, their faces transforming from annoyance to shock. "What do you mean, FBI?" Thomas from accounting's voice cracked as he spoke into his phone. There must be some mistake. Through the glass walls of his office, I could see Marcus frantically scrolling through his phone, his face growing paler by the second. Jessica stood frozen in the hallway, her lighter forgotten in her hand, staring at her screen in horror. The Wall Street Journal headline said it all. "Massive fraud unsealed 8 billion of the industries. CEO and senior managing MPLIKTD and Guy $1 SCANDL." The story was comprehensive, detailing years of systematic fraud, money laundering, and insider trading. Every accusation was backed by meticulous documentation I had spent 7 years collecting. Emails, transaction records, recorded conversations, all carefully preserved and verified. But that was just the beginning. At 9:15, the elevator doors opened and a team of FBI agents stepped onto the floor, led by Agent Sarah Torres, my primary contact for the past 3 years. "Marcus Thompson," she called out, her badge gleaming. "We have a warrant for your arrest." Marcus stumbled out of his office, his face ashen. "This is ridiculous. Who's behind this? Who dared to?" His eyes found mine across the office. For the first time in 7 years, he really saw me. "You," he whispered. I stood up slowly, smoothing my jacket. "Me." Jessica's ladder finally slipped from her fingers, splashing across the expensive carpet. "The loser with the spreadsheets," she said, her voice hollow. "All this time." "Those spreadsheets," I replied calmly, "documented every instance of fraud, every illegal transaction, every piece of evidence needed to bring down this house of cards you built." But I wasn't done. Not even close. As the FBI began leading Marcus away in handcuffs, my phone buzzed with an incoming email. I opened it, allowing myself a small smile as I read the confirmation I'd been waiting for. "What are you smirking at?" Marcus snarled as he was led past my desk. "You've destroyed everything. The company will collapse." "Actually," I said, turning my screen toward him, "Blackwood Industries is about to undergo some positive changes in leadership." His eyes widened as he read the email, an official notice from the board of directors confirming the transfer of controlling interest in Blackwood Industries to Phoenix Capital Management. "What is Phoenix Capital?" Jessica demanded, her voice shaking. "My company," I replied simply. "I've been quietly buying up Blackwood's shares through various shell corporations for the past 5 years. As of this morning, I own 51% of Blackwood Industries." The silence that followed was deafening. Every face in the office stared at me in shocked disbelief. "That's impossible," Marcus croaked. "You're just an analyst. You couldn't afford. Remember all those pointless analyses I did, the ones you never bothered to read?" I walked over to his handcuff form. "They helped me identify undervalued companies in emerging markets. I started investing my savings, making careful strategic moves. Every bonus you tried to deny me, every promotion you blocked, it just gave me more motivation to succeed on my own." I turned to address the stunned office. "Phoenix Capital Management now controls Blackwood Industries. As the new CEO, my first act will be to cooperate fully with federal investigators and implement a complete corporate restructuring." Jessica sank into a nearby chair, her designer outfit suddenly seeming like a costume. "All these years," she whispered, "we never knew." "That was the point," I replied. "You were all so busy looking down on me, you never bothered to look at what I was actually doing." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. FBI agents conducted interviews and collected evidence. Reporters gathered in the lobby, hoping for comments about the scandal. The board of directors convened an emergency meeting to discuss the transition of power. By noon, most of the senior management team had been led away in handcuffs. Those who remained gathered in the main conference room, where I stood at the head of the table, a position I'd earned through years of careful planning and quiet persistence. "Some of you in this room are guilty only of arrogance," I began, looking at their shell-shocked faces. "You'll keep your jobs, but things will be different now. Merit will matter more than connections. Hard work will mean more than smooth talk." I paused, allowing my words to sink in. For those who wondered why I stayed in that cubicle for 7 years, enduring your mockery and discrimination, now you know. Sometimes the best way to learn about a company's weaknesses is from the bottom up. As the day drew to a close, I stood in what was now my office, Marcus's former corner suite with its sweeping city views. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages from reporters seeking interviews and business leaders offering congratulations to the newest CEO in the Fortune 500. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. It was Thomas from accounting, looking uncomfortable in his rumpled suit. "Ms. Mitchell," he stammered. We, none of us knew." "That was the point, Thomas," I said, turning to face the city lights. "Success doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it works quietly, building something remarkable while others are too busy mocking to notice." He nodded slowly, backing out of the office. As the door closed behind him, I allowed myself a moment to savor the victory. 7 years of careful planning had paid off perfectly. My phone buzzed one last time, another text from David at the Wall Street Journal. Follow-up story tomorrow. Sarah Mitchell, The Quiet Revolution in Corporate America, available for comment. I smiled, thinking of the shocked faces at last night's holiday party. They called me the company's biggest loser, never realizing I was about to become their boss. Yes, I tagged back. I think it's finally time to tell my story. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about winning. It's about winning so completely that your victory becomes a legend. As I sat in my new office, watching the sun set over the city, I knew that my story would serve as a reminder. Never underestimate the quiet ones. They might just be building an empire while you're busy laughing at them. The next morning's headline would shock the business world. Whistleblower BCO me as CEO. How Sarah Mitchell orchestrated the big takeover of a year. But for now, I enjoyed the quiet of my victory, knowing that somewhere in a federal holding cell, Marcus Thompson was finally learning the most important lesson of his career. Success doesn't always wear designer suits or demand attention. Sometimes it sits quietly in a corner cubicle, building something extraordinary while everyone else is too blind to see it.